Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers.
Day 2 at the Democratic National Convention. We look ahead to today's speeches and bring you the best bits from yesterday.
And former President Trump's allies are also in Chicago today. They're campaigning on the message that Trump is the best choice for America's economy.
Israel says it has retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Gaza. That's as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken travels to Egypt and Qatar to try to seal a ceasefire deal.
Panama deports 29 Colombians with criminal records. The United States paid for the deportation flight.
Senator Bob Menendez will officially resign today. We have more about his conviction and who will replace him in the Senate.
As AI and cloud computing technology advances, the demand for faster and more efficient data centers is rapidly growing across North America.
NTD is hosting its 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition. Contestants are coming from around the world to showcase their talent as they combine classical Chinese and Western elements into their performance.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey is officially resigning from office today. In July, he was convicted of 16 federal corruption charges. The charges include bribery, extortion, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. He was also accused of acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. He's scheduled to be sentenced on October 29th. Menendez faces a maximum of 222 years in prison. He plans to appeal his conviction. Meanwhile, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy is appointing his former chief of staff, George Helmy, as interim senator. Helmy is poised to serve out the remainder of the term, which ends at the beginning of next year. Voters will elect a successor in November to serve the next full term.
The Democratic National Convention is in full swing in Chicago. A send-off for President Biden and a surprise appearance by Vice President Kamala Harris. NTD's Daniel Monahan has some highlights from the first night of the event.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was showered in cheers of AOC when she took the stage. Ocasio-Cortez says Kamala Harris stands for the middle class because she is from the middle class.
She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions.
The Congresswoman says Harris is committed to abortion access and taking on corporations.
And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
Please welcome
First Lady Jill Biden formally endorsed Kamala Harris at the convention. She promised that Democrats will fight and win together with hope for a brighter future.
Kamala and Tim, you will win.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said Harris has the character, experience, and vision to lead America forward.
She will fight to lower costs for hardworking families, open the doors wide for good-paying jobs.
Clinton added that Harris will restore abortion access nationwide. Harris also made an appearance on the inaugural day of the convention. The vice president said people will declare with one voice come November that they are moving forward with optimism, hope, and faith.
Guided by our love of country, knowing we all have so much more in common than what separates us, let us fight for the ideals we hold dear.
Harris thanked President Biden, calling his leadership historic, and expressed gratitude for his service to the country. The commander-in-chief also spoke at the convention and said being president has been the honor of his lifetime. Biden said it's not true that he was angry at those who said he should step down.
I love the job, but I love my country more.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she hopes America will be unified.
That we will honor the vision of our founders, the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, the aspirations of our children, and to do so that brings people together.
NBA coach Steve Kerr said the country needs leadership that recognizes and celebrates Americans' common purpose.
The joy the compassion, the commitment to our country that we saw at the Olympics, that is what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain said Harris will stand with the working class.
Kamala Harris walks the walk.
The event was marred by anti-Israel protests. At least 4 protesters were arrested after dozens of anti-Israel demonstrators broke through part of the perimeter security fence, drawing riot police to the site. Thousands marched close to the perimeter of the secure convention zone in a show of force against the Biden administration's support for Israel in its war against the Hamas terror group.
Kamala Harris has expressed her sympathies for the Palestinian people and what they're going through, but nice words is not enough. We want action.
Well, I definitely will not be voting for Kamala. She's been his right-hand man.
The Democratic convention concludes on Thursday. Former President Barack Obama is expected to speak tonight, and former President Bill Clinton is slated to speak Wednesday night before vice presidential nominee Tim Walz takes the podium. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Yeah, a lot happened there at the DNC last night, and a lot more slated to happen.
It was so exciting seeing Joe Biden giving his speech, kind of capping his nomination.
Yeah, for sure. And NTD was actually also on the floor of the convention, and Democratic lawmakers there shared their thoughts on the presidential race and the future with our reporters.
Congressman Jamie Raskin says he wants to move toward a future with young people can believe in, with education and economic opportunity. He says the election for him is about the future and the past and the promotion of freedom and democracy.
NTD also spoke with President Biden's senior advisor, Stephen K. Benjamin, and former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has some takeaways from the leaders at the DNC.
Congressman Jamie Raskin weighed in on the Israel-Hamas war in a conversation with NTD.
The Democratic Party has always been a strong supporter of the strategic defense and security of Israel, a fellow democracy, and at the same time, we are anguished about the civilian casualties and the loss of life in Gaza, and we need to bring the hostages home, and we need a ceasefire. And that's something where American leadership can make a difference.
He told NTD's Kelly Wright he got into politics because he wanted to see if he could make a positive difference.
I was a law professor for a quarter of a century, and I love reading and writing and teaching and studying. But when I had kids, I began to think about all of the things that would affect their future. And I realized, as much as I love academia, to me, it didn't feel completely responsible just to be kind of an academic observer and critic.
Congressman Willie Nickel told NTD a reset of the presidential race has people incredibly excited.
And there's hope. There's hope that we're going to make sure we beat Donald Trump in this next election. That's what I'm feeling on the ground. I worked for President Obama in 2008. I traveled all over the country with him. This feels just like 2008.
Nickel said many will be talking about bringing the country together at the convention this week.
I won a Republican seat in the House, one of just 6 that we flipped in the last election, because I campaigned on bringing our country together. I'm a member of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, where I work every week with my Democrat and Republican colleagues to move legislation in a bipartisan way. So that's been my focus. That's what folks want. They want solutions. They want people going to Washington to get things done.
President Biden's senior advisor, Stephen K. Benjamin, talked to NTD about Biden's legacy.
He's led from the front. He and the vice president have gotten the job done. They've changed the course of this nation and will continue to do so under this new leadership of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
He emphasized the president's achievements in dealing with the pandemic and the economy, stressing his humility and service and leadership.
President Biden and Vice President Harris hit the ground running, decided they needed to put an end to the pandemic, get shots in arms and save lives. After saving lives through the American Rescue Plan, decided they needed to save livelihoods, stood up businesses all across this country, have led to a small business boom. 18 million new small business applications, a record I might add in 4 years as of last week. 16 million new jobs.
Former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio told NTD's Jack Bradley the most exciting thing for him at the DNC is to see the momentum building. He said in political terms it's still a long time before the election.
So we got to get a lot out of this next few days. And really it's an opportunity to show people positive vision, I think.
Community leader Vondell Singleton is the founder and CEO of Champs Mentoring in Chicago. Champs stands for Culturally Helping and Making Positive Success. The program aims to educate and empower young men to achieve their dreams.
And we have a motto. We believe that every young person is born to win in every situation in life. One parent home, two parent home, you black, white, it doesn't matter what your religion is. We believe that you are born to win, that you have a purpose in life, and you can pass it on to the next generation once you get education, empowerment, and exposure.
Singleton graduated with both his bachelor's and master's degrees from Oral Roberts University. He credits his mentor for his success, saying the program is also about giving back.
And we telling young people, hey, once you reach that level of success, remember what got you there. And please reach back and make an impact. Pay it forward. Give it to the next generation, because really, you know, the true value and true meaning of who we are as leaders is how well we serve one another.
I appreciate you, Vondell.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Democrats have opened the opportunity for influencers to cover their political convention in Chicago. That's a first for the party as it seeks to connect with voters beyond the reach of traditional media.
Well, I'm a content creator. I make videos on TikTok in Spanish for the Latino immigrant community here in the United States. I do my content in Spanish, but I talk about politics, social issues, and all that. So when I saw there was going to be an opportunity for content creators to get credentialed to come to the DNC, I thought it would be a great opportunity to keep people informed and make some cool content. So I applied, got approved, and here I am.
So I started this project as a way to re-engage people with American politics, because I think American politics is so exciting and so wonderful, and I know that we can make such a big difference.
It's about time. Creators are like a huge messenger in the news economy today. We share stories with the public just like news anchors do, and in many ways, indisputably, we reach more people. So I'm really grateful that Kamala and her team see the value of creators and are incorporating us into media.
Yeah, I think I'm a part of a big network of creators who are doing a good job of informing everyone, regardless of political views, right? I think nowadays left and right are getting their information on social media. So it's important to have people like us here so we can take that message directly to the audience who might not see the convention on television or on traditional news.
And I think in a time where the media has become about truth on the side of spin and profit, someone like me that isn't looking for the profit aspect but is really looking for the truth aspect, that becomes what people hold on to, because they know that what I'm doing is authentic, they know I actually care, and they can tell from the way that I do it.
We do, and damned if we don't.
Vice President Harris has 4.5 million followers on TikTok. Trump has gathered nearly 10.5 million since he joined in June. The DNC committee said influencers would cover the 4-day event in new ways. Meanwhile, Trump campaign advisors have said he plans to target young men on TikTok with messages on inflation and other economic issues. Many popular social media platforms have embraced short videos as their primary format.
Now let's go to NTD's Jason Blair, who's on the ground in Chicago. Jason, it's great to have you. What can we expect to see today and the rest of the week?
Yeah, guys, so with 3 days left of the convention, there are still a lot of big names on the ticket to speak. Former President Obama is scheduled to speak today. Former First Lady Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris's husband Doug Emhoff will also be speaking, and Senator Bernie Sanders is scheduled to speak today. Tomorrow, former President Bill Clinton is said to be speaking. And of course, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be formally accepting the Democratic Party's nomination. And then Thursday, Vice President Kamala Harris is scheduled to be the keynote speaker and close out the convention. As far as yesterday, there were some things. The schedule ran a little bit longer than expected. President Biden was scheduled to speak more at a primetime slot, but didn't get on stage until roughly about 10:30 local time here. As well as getting into the venue, a lot of attendees said that some of them had to wait like an hour and a half just to go through the security checkpoints. So we will see if any of those issues improve today and in the coming days.
Jason, yesterday the protesters breached some fence along the DNC perimeter. And today, new fence has gone up. Looks pretty serious. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, that's right. So dozens of protesters were reported to have breached the security zone outside of the United Center. This is a national special security event, so security is very tight, headed by the Secret Service. It was reported that about 13 individuals were arrested. Most of them were related to the breach. The Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling said total the protesters numbered at about 3,500. He did say most of them were peaceful, except there were some that clashed with police. They were spraying pepper spray at the police, throwing water bottles. And Larry Snelling said that the police, quote, showed great restraint, and they are expecting more protests to come through the coming days. But he said that their officers are prepared and they are ready to handle anything that might happen. Back to you.
All right, Jason Blair, thank you so much. We'll be staying with you and hope to have you back on the show.
With the DNC now underway, we'll take you there with on-the-ground interviews, in-house analysis, and more. Be sure to tune in for our live special coverage of The Nation Decides 2024. Join our own Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on NTD. We'll be covering the DNC every evening until it wraps up this Thursday, so don't miss out. Candidate Trump's allies are holding press conferences this week as the DNC continues in Chicago. This morning, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds spoke from the Trump International Hotel and Tower, also in Chicago. At the forefront of his comments were VP Kamala Harris's economic and border policies. Take a look.
So if you have price controls, which shrinks supply for a store where they already aren't selling high dollar merchandise because the people in that community can't afford it, what happens? That store closes. That's what's going to happen. Then you have poor people having to transport themselves to another community to go get food, in this particular case, because she wants to have price controls over food. That's what's going to occur. You're going to see these supermarket chains, in poorer communities will shut down at an even more rapid pace than they have already been shutting down. The other people that it hurts are non-corporate farmers. Black farmers, white farmers, they have 10 acres, 20 acres, 30 acres, and they're just doing whatever they can to make ends meet on their own farm, and they do a great job. But they don't have the volume of crops to be able to withstand the price pressures from Kamala Harris. So what happens? Their land goes out of production. They might have to switch to growing something else, which isn't your basic food stock that goes into any supermarket around the country. So it hurts those farmers who are non-corporate farmers. It hurts inner cities and low socioeconomic areas because they're not buying the high-end products to keep those stores open. So, look, if you're rich, yeah, you'll still get food because you buy other products, so your stores will remain open. There'll be a pipeline for you. But if you're poor, yeah, you're going to have bigger food deserts. You're not going to get the basic items that you need to survive. That's how dangerous a policy that is. And that's not me talking as a member of Congress. That's me talking as a guy who worked in finance for 17 years. And that's me talking as a guy who understands the economic history of price gouging controls, price gouging controls, etc. Let me talk quickly about the actual gouging. The only way true price gouging actually occurs is if somebody has a dominant market share, like 60, 70, 80%, or they have a dominant area control, meaning they're the only game in town for like 30 miles. Then you get to gouge. But every state in the country has price gouging laws. Florida has price gouging laws. So what she's trying to do is cover up for the fact that it is her vote in the U.S. Senate that unleashed the greatest inflation in our country in over 40 years. And if you're an existing small business owner, those same regulations which Joe Biden and Kamala Harris increased to the tune of $1.4 trillion in one presidential term, that puts weights on your neck to be able to thrive as a business. But when you have a lack of morale in cities surrounding police departments, police officers will be like, well, why would I arrest that guy when the DA is just going to turn around and cut him loose anyway? That doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't help anybody. And this is what's happening. I was with my sheriff in Lee County a couple days ago, and I asked him, how is staffing going? And he goes, I have more officers than I know what to do with.
Former President Trump announced on Truth Social that Vice President Harris will not take part in a potential Fox News debate on September 4th. Trump suggested Harris is avoiding the debate because defending what he called her inconsistent policies would be difficult. Instead, Trump will join a televised town hall with Sean Hannity on Fox News in Pennsylvania. The scheduled debate between Trump and Harris on ABC News will take place on September 10th. Harris says she's open to additional debates, but her campaign says future plans depend on Trump participating in the first one.
A federal judge has denied Hunter Biden's attempt to dismiss his tax evasion case. The president's son tried to use the same controversial ruling that ended former President Trump's classified documents case. Hunter Biden had argued the Justice Department's special counsel who brought the charges was unconstitutionally appointed and unlawfully funded. But District Judge Mark Scarsi in Los Angeles ruled his decision was based on technical and procedural grounds. The judge concluded the first son's motion was filed too late. He also said it was a thinly veiled attempt to relitigate a question he previously ruled on and rejected. Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty to 9 tax crimes. The next hearing in the case is tomorrow.
Former President Trump's request to delay sentencing in his New York criminal case is now in Judge Juan Merchan's hands. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office said it would let the judge decide whether sentencing can wait until after the election. Trump's lawyers last week asked the judge to postpone sentencing because he's the leading Republican candidate for presidency. Trump's legal team argued sentencing should only take place after early voting in the November election begins. Prosecutors didn't oppose the request and said they'll let Merchan decide if a delay is warranted. Trump was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records in May. The original sentencing date was set for July 11th, later postponed to September 18th. Judge Merchan said he would rule 2 days before that on whether Trump's actions were protected under presidential immunity. Trump's lawyers said they want Trump's sentencing delayed so they can have enough time to appeal Merchan's immunity ruling.
Coming up next, Panama deports 29 Colombians with criminal records on a flight paid for by the United States. We will have that and more after this short break.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
One-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Welcome back. Panama deported 29 Colombians with criminal records today on a flight paid for by the United States. The Panamanian government said the deportation was the first of its kind under an agreement signed with the U.S. in July. Panama's new president, Jose Mulino, who took office last month, campaigned on a promise to curb illegal immigration through the country. Today, several Colombian nationals were deported after entering Panama illegally through the dangerous Darien Gap. Last year, more than 500,000 migrants traversed this treacherous jungle path, with the majority being Venezuelans. However, Panama currently faces challenges in deporting Venezuelan nationals, as the government, like many in the region, have refused to recognize the results of Venezuela's recent presidential election. This diplomatic tension has led to the suspension of relations between Panama and Venezuela, adding another layer to the complex regional dynamics.
Next, another setback for Boeing. Its troubled 777X aircraft has encountered yet another problem. Boeing paused tests after discovering structural problems with the plane. The company says a component between the engine and the plane's wings did not perform as it was designed to. Engineers are now working to replace the part and will resume testing when ready. Boeing billed the 777X as the world's largest and most efficient twin-engine jet. It was supposed to have entered service in 2020, but it has been plagued by delays and cost issues. The structural problem could push back the revised launch date of 2025.
The Federal Aviation Administration will require all Boeing 787 Dreamliners to be inspected. This follows an incident in March when a plane went into a sudden dive and 50 passengers were injured. The FAA said the dive was caused by the autopilot disengaging when the captain's seat moved on its own. The agency said it's received several other complaints about the same issue. Now, the FAA is directing 158 planes in the U.S. and over 700 planes worldwide to be inspected. Inspectors have been asked to look at the captain's and first officer's seats. The inspections must be completed in 30 days, and airlines must take action to fix any issues if found.
BMW is recalling more than 720,000 vehicles in the U.S. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is concerned that an exposed electrical connector could get wet and cause a short circuit. The recall includes some crossovers, including the X1 and X5, along with some 5 Series sedans and other models. Dealers will inspect and replace the water pump and plug connector as necessary. The NHTSA said retailers will also install a protective shield for free. The auto regulator added that BMW was aware of about 18 customer complaints and concerns, but it hasn't received any reports of accidents or injuries in the U.S.
The world's largest contract chip maker, TSMC, launched a major new computer chip plant today in Germany. It's expected to be a key supplier to the European industry and car makers. The EU Commission approved $5.5 billion worth of state aid from Germany. The large aid award for the project will cost $11 billion in all. It's the biggest approved so far under the EU CHIPS Act and the first in Germany. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz attended the groundbreaking ceremony today. This is the first project in Europe under TSMC. It's expected to reduce European dependence on other countries for computer chips.
The EU cut its planned tariffs on imports of Tesla cars built in China today. That's now down to 9% from nearly 21%. In June, the European Commission said it would increase tariffs on Chinese EV imports because they benefit unfairly from state subsidies. and pose a threat to EV makers in Europe. This has provoked threats of retaliation from Beijing. The EU said it lowered the duty rate for Tesla after the company requested a recalculation of its rate based on the specific subsidies it receives in China, which are presumably lower. A few other companies, such as BYD, also had their rates lowered. The Commission said companies that don't cooperate with the EU's anti-subsidy investigation will face final duties of more than 36%.
As tech giants ramp up their AI and cloud computing efforts, demand for data center power is soaring.
A new study shows data center construction in top U.S. and Canadian markets has jumped 70% this past year. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
Data centers, often described as large computer warehouses, are measured by their power usage rather than their physical size. According to a CBRE Group research study released this week, in the first half of 2024, over 500 megawatts of new data center capacity were introduced in the top 8 markets across the US and Canada. That's roughly equivalent to the total capacity in Silicon Valley. This represents a 10% increase in new data center supply compared to the previous 6 months, and is a 23% jump from a year ago. The 8 key North American markets for data centers are North Virginia, Dallas and Fort Worth, Silicon Valley, Chicago, Phoenix, the New York tri-state area, Atlanta, and Hillsboro in Oregon. The global real estate services and investment firm reported that as new data center inventory surged, vacancy rates fell to 2.8%, resulting in higher rental rates, with newer facilities often commanding a premium over older ones. CBRE's Data Center Trend Report stated the demand for high-powered computing has exacerbated the pricing disparity between legacy facilities and new data centers, partially because older data centers don't have the infrastructure to handle the power demands of today's users. The report suggests that rising demand for new facilities will likely make smaller markets, such as Idaho, Arkansas, and Kansas, more attractive. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Coming up, Israel announces it has retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from Gaza. That's as Secretary of State Antony Blinken travels to Egypt and Qatar to try to seal a ceasefire deal.
We have more of that story and the Pentagon's briefing after the break.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion and make us happy or sad. But there's one word that stands out, because when people say it, lives are changed.
It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy. It's only 3 little letters.
But when you say it,
the life of a kid like me can be changed. So, what is this special word? It may surprise you.
it's yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me.
And me. Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch.
And I can walk. So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving. Please Call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
Presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. The 2024 NTD International Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Competition will be held August 30th to September 2nd at the Village School in New Jersey. Semifinals and finals tickets are on sale. To buy tickets, please call 1-888-477-9228.
Thanks for staying with us. The largest ever joint air drill with the U.S. and South Korea is underway, aimed at countering the nuclear-armed North Korea. The drills are part of the country's annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercises, meant to boost readiness for war scenarios. More than 200 South Korean and U.S. fighter jets are due to fly around the clock for 5 days this week. This marks the largest number of sorties flown in training by the Allies. The drills involve mock enemy aircraft interception and cruise missile defense. At the same time, South Korea is conducting anti-terror attack drills in its capital. That's in response to potential drone attacks and a hostage situation.
And in Taiwan, military exercises are also intensifying. The island showed off its missile firepower today in front of reporters, signaling its determination to defend itself. Taiwanese soldiers launched both U.S.-made Patriot missiles and Taiwan-made Skybow 3 missiles at a sensitive test site on the coast. All of them are surface-to-air missiles. Communist China views the democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and seeks to assert its sovereign claims. Taiwan denies China's claims. As a result, Beijing has stepped up military activity around the island and vowed to take it over by force if necessary. Next, Israel today announcing it retrieved the bodies of 6 hostages from southern Gaza overnight. The news comes as mediators try to reach a ceasefire deal, which might open the door for more hostages to be released. Here's the latest on the situation in the Middle East.
The Israeli military released this footage on Tuesday, appearing to show the operation which recovered the bodies of deceased hostages. Israel says it retrieved the 6 hostages from southern Gaza overnight. Officials released pictures of the 6. 4 of them were from the kibbutz Nir Oz, 2 from kibbutz Nirm. The families of the victims have been notified. It is not clear how and when the individuals died. The nephew of one of the victims says the Israeli government must now do everything possible to bring home the remaining hostages.
Otherwise, there is no future for the state of Israel, for the people of Israel living in the state of Israel. No one will want to live in a state that does not take care of its citizens, that betrays them and abandons them.
Hamas is still believed to be holding over 100 hostages captured on October 7th. Israeli authorities estimate that around a third of them are dead. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday met with the families of fallen soldiers and hostages in Gaza. He says that Israel is approaching victory.
Eliminate Hamas and achieve victory. We are approaching it step by step. At the same time, we are making an effort to return the hostages under conditions that will allow the maximum number of hostages to be released in the first stage of the deal.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken left Egypt for Qatar on Tuesday afternoon. He's meeting with mediators in different countries to broker a ceasefire deal. While in Israel on Monday, Blinken said that Israel has accepted a proposal to bridge differences holding up a ceasefire. A senior Hamas official later criticized Blinken's statement, saying that it's not what was presented to the terrorist group. The official said Hamas doesn't want more negotiations, but rather to find an implementation mechanism for terms previously agreed on.
Pentagon Press Secretary, Air Force Major General Pat Ryder is giving a media briefing now. Let's take a look.
Operations and to Russia to talk about its own forces.
And then secondly, did
the Ukrainians ask anything, or are they asking anything from the United States in order to help with the operation there? Are they asking for any specific weapon systems or other support?
Yeah, I don't have anything to announce from the podium. As I mentioned, we'll be conducting the Ukraine Defense Contact Group here in September, which again is always the opportunity to meet with our allies and partners to talk about Ukraine's most urgent defense needs. And as I highlighted, we're committed to making sure they have what they need to defend their sovereign territory and deter future Russian aggression.
Can I just put sort of on the record, could we please get an operational update?
Noted. Thank you. Welcome back again, Lucas.
Thank you. General Ryder, how long do you plan to keep this additional firepower in the Middle East?
Well, as you know, we're not going to talk about operational timelines. We will preserve flexibility as we always do. And again, we'll stay focused on the operational objectives that I highlighted.
What happened to as long as it takes, or is that just for Ukraine?
You're talking about the Middle East?
I'm talking about the Middle East, but I'm saying for Ukraine, you constantly say the mantra in this building is for as long as it takes. Is that the same with the Middle East?
Well, again, Lucas, I know you've covered this region for a while. We've had a significant force presence in the Middle East for a very long time, upwards of 30,000 plus U.S. forces operating with partners throughout the region, and I don't foresee that changing anytime soon.
Are all options on the table with Iran?
In what regard?
I mean, all regard.
Like, where do you want to start? Like diplomatic, economic, informational?
This building said all options are on the table in dealing with Iran. Does that include striking Iran? Are all options on the table?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into a philosophical discussion. I think we've been very clear in terms of we're focused on. Well, you're providing a very broad scope, getting into, geopolitics, and so if you can define your question a little bit better. Yeah.
All options are on the table when dealing with
spokesperson. Let's go over here to Will.
Regarding the Russian forces that have been moving into Kursk, are they from inside Russia, or any of them been pulled from Ukraine or Ukrainian front lines?
Yeah, I'm not going to have any further details to provide on that, Will. Thanks. Charlie.
Thanks, Pat. In terms of the destruction of the Glishkovo Bridge, the Russians are suggesting Western weapons were used, possibly HIMARS. Are HIMARS being used in this fight?
So I appreciate the question. Again, I'm going to have to refer you to the Ukrainians to talk about their operations and what they are or not using.
F-16s?
Again, I'd refer you to the Ukrainians to talk about what they're employing in their operations. So, Brad.
So when the Secretary spoke with the Ukrainian Defense Minister yesterday, did they discuss long-range strikes into Russia, and is the U.S. considering reversing that policy?
So I'm not going to be able to provide more detail than what we've included in our readout, other than to say, our policy when it comes to long-range strikes has not changed. Thanks. Tony?
On ATACMS in the Kursk offensive, do the Ukrainians have permission to use ATACMS to blunt a Russian counteroffensive into the pocket they've captured?
So I'm not going to get into Ukraine's selection of capabilities as they conduct their operations. Our policy has not changed, which is in terms of using long-range strike capabilities to conduct deep strike. As you've heard us say, conducting counterfire or defensive operations across the border is permitted, and I'll just leave it there.
Quick question. Last week you took a question on Afghanistan in terms of over-the-horizon strikes. It was in the context of ISIS-K. You didn't really elaborate on the extent to which, since the withdrawal 3 years ago, the United States is conducting over-the-horizon either surveillance or strikes against ISIS-K elements. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and the extent to which the United States is conducting those?
Well, generally speaking, Tony, we're going to read out or at the appropriate time any type of strikes that we've taken. I'm not aware of any that we haven't announced at this point. Certainly, if we see imminent threats against the United States or our interests, we reserve the right to take appropriate action to include conducting over-the-horizon strikes. But I don't have anything to read out to you right now. Thanks. Janie.
Thank you, General. Two questions. The U.S. and South Korea, UFS, Ultimate Freedom Shield military exercise is underway in South Korea. North Korea accused this exercise of being aimed at invading North Korea, how will you react?
Yeah, I mean, that's just patently false. As you know, these exercises are defensive in nature. They're also long-standing, and these are opportunities for our forces to work together on interoperability and to learn how to operate in dissimilar environments.
Last weekend, the leaders of the United States and South Korea and Japan issued a joint statement commemorating the one-year anniversary of the Camp David Declaration. What will happen to the U.S. and South Korea and the U.S. and South Korea-Japan agreement if the United States administration changes?
Well, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I'm not going to get into a hypothetical other than to say I think our alliance with Japan and South Korea are stronger than they've ever been. And I think going into the future, you'll see them continue to get even stronger. Thanks. Let me go to the phone real quick here, take a couple. All right, let's go to JJ Green, WTOP.
Thank you, General, for taking this question. I had a chance to speak with a spokesman from the Ukrainian military a day or so ago, and they mentioned that it would be very helpful for them if Western logistics, and speaking of the U.S. and the allies that are sending weapons, et cetera, to them, if the pace could be picked up to get those weapons to them sooner, considering what it is that they're doing and what they're engaged in now in Kursk and Belgorod. And just second, really quickly, is this something that could be addressed at the next contact group, if not sooner?
Yeah, thanks for the question, JJ. We are always looking at ways that we can expedite delivery of capabilities to the Ukrainians. And to your point, the Ukraine Defense Contact Group provides an excellent forum in which to have discussions, to look at processes, procedures as it relates to ensuring that the Ukrainians have what they need on the battlefield to defend themselves. You know, it's important to remember, first of all, that from the very beginning, the United States has worked very, very hard to rush vital capabilities to Ukraine, and that hasn't stopped. You see organizations like the Security Assistance Group Ukraine, which serves as a focal point for ensuring the onward delivery of those capabilities, but also recognizing the incredible complexity, more than 50 nations working together to get this capability from their own stocks in often cases, or contracting it and getting it to Ukraine. So that is work that is constantly ongoing, and as evidenced by the fact that you continue to see Russian forces conducting offensive action in the east of Ukraine. We also recognize the vital importance of moving as quickly as possible. So we'll stay after it. Let me go to Laura Seligman, Wall Street Journal.
That was the Pentagon Press Secretary, Air Force Major General Pat Ryder. He's speaking to the press right as tensions are rising in the Middle East and as Ukraine has taken territory in Russia's Kursk region.
That's right. Not much in terms of announcing any sort of new policy or strategy. Seems, according to him, that the U.S. is really firm on the stance it's always had. Also, some mention there about North Korea and South Korea, like we just mentioned earlier. The U.S. is conducting air drills with South Korea, but he emphasizes that it's purely defensive and not offensive.
That's right. A bit of a check-in. Nothing major breaking out of that press conference there.
Exactly. Coming up next, the earthquake in Southern California earlier this month sparks concerns.
And we will learn more from a leading seismologist after the break.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
You'll save big at Mathis Home and get store-wide 12-month no-interest financing during the Monumental Savings Event. Get huge markdowns on hundreds of sofas starting at just $3.99. Check out our incredible selection of patio and outdoor furniture and save big. Plus, we're the only place with top name recliners starting at just $195. Shop online and find over 180,000 items perfect for every room in your house. Come save at the Monumental Savings Event at Mathis Home.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Welcome back. We continue to follow the luxury yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily. A 1-year-old girl who survived the disaster is discharged from the hospital today. The emergency department director at a local children's hospital said the little girl had no injuries and her parents were treated for minor injuries.
They told me they found themselves in an incredible condition, let's say of physical and psychological upheaval of their lives, and that the boat capsized within a few minutes. They luckily managed to keep the baby girl from the waves because for a few seconds she had even escaped. But her mother managed to pick her up, hold her above the water level, and get into the safety raft that had luckily already been launched a few minutes earlier.
Search and rescue operations are ongoing to find the 6 people still missing. They include British entrepreneur Mike Lynch and Morgan Stanley International Chairman Jonathan Bloomer. A local fisherman threw flowers into the sea as a tribute to them. Rescue teams recovered the body of the yacht's onboard chef yesterday, who was identified as Antiguan citizen Ricardo Thomas. The fire brigade said specialist divers had reached the ship yesterday at a depth of around 164 feet, but access was limited due to objects in the way. A 4.4 magnitude earthquake hit Southern California earlier this month, sparking concerns again about a possible catastrophic quake in the future, a scenario dubbed the Big One.
NTD's B.J. Kang spoke to leading seismologist Dr. Lucy Jones to learn more.
Shaking living rooms and broken glasses are what Los Angeles residents experienced earlier this month as their houses were rattled by what the U.S. Geological Survey confirmed as a 4.4 magnitude earthquake. The earthquake quickly stirred up chatter amongst residents about the Big One, a long-awaited catastrophic earthquake that's supposed to cause thousands of deaths and billions of dollars in damage in the SoCal area. Yet the earthquake, which originated around West Los Angeles, fell on a fault that's expected to be even more devastating than the San Andreas Fault, the expected origin point of the Big One. We spoke to leading Caltech seismologist Dr. Lucy Jones for her analysis.
Yes, so the Puente Hills thrust is large enough to give us potentially up to a magnitude 7.5. That large an earthquake directly underneath millions of people, and especially millions of people living in relatively old and not as well constructed houses and buildings has the potential for significantly more damage than the San Andreas fault, which would produce a larger earthquake because it's a longer fault, but much of the fault extends through the desert and away from a lot of people. So we end up, when we model them, we get more damage, quite a bit more damage from a Puente Hills thrust than we do from the San Andreas.
We saw a small preview of that damage as the quake on August 12th had ruptured a water pipe in Pasadena City Hall, and we asked if we might see more earthquakes in the future and if they would lead to any larger ones.
What you always see is what's called a self-similar distribution, where we have, like for each magnitude 5, we'll have 10 magnitude 4s. For each 4, we'll have 10 3s. That means for each 5, we have 100 3s and 1,000 2s and 10,000 1s. So when we have more earthquakes, we have a higher chance of some larger ones, and you would expect to start seeing some larger ones.
Alongside increasing concern around the Puente Hills fault, people still look towards the San Andreas fault, fearing the at least 7-point magnitude earthquake that's expected to come from there. The big one would be similar in scope to the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, which caused more than 3,000 deaths and $400 million in damage. However, I asked why the much-anticipated quake was taking so long despite years of discussion.
Well, 20 years is a drop in the bucket in geologic time. I mean, it's been going on longer than that. I started my work here in Southern California 40 years ago and absolutely expected that I would see the big San Andreas earthquake in my career, and it still hasn't happened. So human timescales are just too short to talk about when the big one will come. It's absolutely inevitable, but we don't know when.
BJ Kang, NTD News, California.
NTD's International Chinese Vocal Competition will be holding its 9th competition this year.
It's one in a series of international competitions aimed at promoting traditional Chinese culture and arts.
The 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is coming to New York City. The aim of the competition is to promote pure truth, goodness, and beauty, and help the Chinese vocalists around the world showcase their talent on the world stage.
NTD has set up this platform to give Chinese vocalists from all over the world an opportunity to showcase their talents.
The competition will be divided into male and female vocal groups. Singers will have a chance to win either gold, silver, or bronze prizes, as well as a number of awards for outstanding performances in each group.
To be eligible, singers must be between the ages of 18 and 50. The majority of the contestants are Chinese, but mixed race is also acceptable. You are eligible if you are at least 1/4 Chinese.
The contestants are required to sing a Chinese song after entering the final round, and the unique highlight of the contest is to sing a Chinese song in a Western style.
Singing a Chinese song in a Western style is a very unique feature that cannot be found anywhere else. This is a unique platform for Chinese vocalists.
Singers from Shenyang Performing Arts have been invited to be judges for this year's competition. The semifinals and finals will be held from September 18th to the 21st. It will be live streamed from the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. NTD News, New York.
When we come back, we speak to a Democratic strategist about her take on the Democratic National Convention now on day 2.
We'll see what she says Vice President Kamala Harris has to do to win in November. Stay tuned.
New to Medicare? Recently moved or losing coverage? Then let us help break it down for you. First up, we have Medicare Part A. Consider your hospital insurance as your safety net, covering inpatient hospital stays, skilled nursing facilities, hospice care, and some home health care. It's the help for your peace of mind, ensuring that you get the care you may need when you need it. And now let's talk about Medicare Part B, your medical insurance. This is your key to most preventative services, outpatient care and doctor visits, from flu shots to screenings. Part B, you're at the forefront of proactive health care. If you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, the plan may provide all of your Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B coverage, and it is designed with you in mind, providing a wide array of coverage options for personalized care. Review your Medicare coverage options, ensuring it aligns with your evolving healthcare needs, from flu shots to screenings. Call 800-939-1759. That's 800-939-1759.
1 in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting givetosave.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit givetosave.org today.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers.
Day 2 at the Democratic National Convention. We look ahead to today's speeches and bring you the best bits from yesterday.
And former President Trump's allies are also in Chicago today. They're campaigning on the message that Trump is the best choice for America's economy.
Senator Bob Menendez will officially resign today. We have more about his conviction and who will replace him in the Senate.
Panama deports 29 Colombians with criminal records. The United States paid for the deportation flight.
New York City buses are upgraded with new cameras. Stay tuned to find out what the cameras are doing.
Ready on the runway? 2 airlines have cleared an antitrust hurdle in their proposed merger, but they need another approval before they can reach cruising altitude.
Home makeovers being put on hold. Why Lowe's says consumers are putting off projects and what that means for its sales and outlook.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
President candidate Trump's allies are holding press conferences this week as the DNC continues in Chicago. This morning, Florida Congressman Byron Donald spoke from the Trump International Hotel and Tower, also in Chicago. At the forefront of his comments were VP Kamala Harris's economic and border policies. Take a look.
So if you have price controls, which shrinks supply for a store where they already aren't selling high dollar merchandise because the people in that community can't afford it, what happens? That store closes. That's what's going to happen. Then you have poor people having to transport themselves to another community to go get food, in this particular case, because she wants to have price controls over food. That's what's going to occur. You're going to see these supermarket chains, in poorer communities will shut down at an even more rapid pace than they have already been shutting down. The other people that it hurts are non-corporate farmers. Black farmers, white farmers. They have 10 acres, 20 acres, 30 acres, and they're just doing whatever they can to make ends meet on their own farm, and they do a great job. But they don't have the volume of crops to be able to withstand the price pressures from Kamala Harris.
Former President Trump announced on Truth Social that Vice President Harris will not take part in a potential Fox News debate on September 4th. Trump suggested Harris is avoiding the debate because defending what he called her inconsistent policies would be difficult. Instead, Trump will join a televised town hall with Sean Hannity on Fox News in Pennsylvania. The scheduled debate between Trump and Harris on ABC News will take place on September 10th. Harris says she's open to additional debates, but her campaign says future plans depend on Trump participating in the first one. Former President Trump's request to delay sentencing in his New York criminal case is now in Judge Juan Merchan's hands. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office said it would let the judge decide whether sentencing can wait until after the election. Trump's lawyers last week asked the judge to postpone sentencing because he's the leading Republican candidate for presidency. Trump's legal team argued sentencing should only take place after early voting in the November election begins. Prosecutors didn't oppose the request and said they'll let Merchan decide if a delay is warranted. Trump was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records back in May. The original sentencing date was set for July 11th, which was later postponed to September 18th. Judge Merchan said he would rule 2 days before that on whether Trump's actions were protected under presidential immunity. Trump's lawyers said they want Trump's sentencing delayed so they can have enough time to appeal Merchan's immunity ruling. Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey is officially resigning from office today. The charges include bribery, extortion, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. He was also accused of acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. He's scheduled to be sentenced on October 29th. Menendez faces a maximum of 222 years in prison. He plans to appeal this conviction. Meanwhile, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy is appointing his former chief of staff, George Helmy, as interim senator. Helmy is poised to serve out the remainder of the term, which ends at the beginning of next year. Voters will elect a successor in November to serve the next full term.
A federal judge has denied Hunter Biden's attempt to dismiss his tax evasion case. The president's son tried to use the same controversial ruling that ended former President Trump's classified documents case. Hunter Biden had argued the Justice Department special counsel who brought the charges was unconstitutionally appointed and unlawfully funded. But District Judge Mark Scarsi in Los Angeles ruled his decision was based on technical and procedural grounds. The judge concluded the first son's motion was filed too late. He also said it was a thinly veiled attempt to relitigate a question he previously ruled on and rejected. Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty to 9 tax crimes. The next hearing in the case is tomorrow.
Panama deported 29 Colombians with criminal records today on a flight paid for by the United States. The Panamanian government said the deportation was the first of its kind under an agreement signed with the U.S. back in July. Panama's new president, Jose Molino, who took office last month, campaigned on a promise to curb illegal immigration throughout the country. Today, several Colombian nationals were deported after entering Panama illegally through the dangerous Darien Gap. Last year, more than 500,000 migrants traversed this treacherous jungle path, with the majority being Venezuelans. However, Panama currently faces challenges in deporting Venezuelan nationals, as the government, like many in the region, has refused to recognize the results of Venezuela's recent presidential election. This diplomatic tension has led to the suspension of relations between Panama and Venezuela, adding another layer to the complex regional dynamics.
A special commission created to investigate the October 2023 Maine shootings released its final report today. It said that the Army Reserve and local police have missed out on opportunities to intervene. The gunman, former Army reservist Robert Card, was responsible for the deadliest shooting in Maine history, which killed 18 people. The independent commission heard from scores of witnesses and reviewed thousands of pages of evidence. The report stated that law enforcement had an authority under the state's yellow flag law to seize the shooter's guns and put him in protective custody weeks before the shooting. It also said the Army Reserve should have done more to ensure the shooter's health treatment and deal with his weapons. The chair of the commission said it's impossible to know if the tragedy would have happened if police and the Army had done a better job. He also said police did their best to respond to the tragedy, but noted that there was utter chaos during their response.
The Democratic National Convention is in full swing in Chicago.
That is right. A send-off for President Biden and a surprise appearance by Vice President Kamala Harris.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has some highlights from the first night of the event.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was showered in cheers of AOC when she took the stage. Ocasio-Cortez says Kamala Harris stands for the middle class because she is from the middle class.
She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions.
The Congresswoman says Harris is committed to abortion access and taking on corporations.
And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
Please welcome.
First Lady Jill Biden formally endorsed Kamala Harris at the convention. She promised that Democrats will fight and win together with hope for a brighter future.
Kamala and Tim, you will win.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said Harris has the character, experience, and vision to lead America forward.
She will fight to lower costs for hardworking families, open the doors wide for good-paying jobs.
Clinton added that Harris will restore abortion access nationwide. Harris also made an appearance on the inaugural day of the convention. The vice president said people will declare with one voice come November that they are moving forward with optimism, hope, and faith.
Guided by our love of country, knowing we all have so much more in common than what separates us, let us fight for the ideals we hold dear.
Harris thanked President Biden, calling his leadership historic, and expressed gratitude for his service to the country. The commander-in-chief also spoke at the convention and said being president has been the honor of his lifetime. Biden said it's not true that he was angry at those who said he should step down.
I love the job, but I love my country more.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she hopes America will be unified.
That we will honor the vision of our founders, the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, the aspirations of our children, and to do so that brings people together.
NBA coach Steve Kerr said the country needs leadership that recognizes and celebrates Americans' common purpose.
The joy, the compassion, the commitment to our country that we saw at the Olympics, that is what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain said Harris will stand with the working class.
Kamala Harris walks the walk.
The event was marred by anti-Israel protests. At least 4 protesters were arrested after dozens of anti-Israel demonstrators broke through part of the perimeter security fence, drawing riot police to the site. Thousands marched close to the perimeter of the secure convention zone in a show of force against the Biden administration's support for Israel in its war against the Hamas terror group.
Kamala Harris has expressed her sympathies for the Palestinian people and what they're going through, but nice words is not enough. We want action.
Well, I definitely will not be voting for Kamala. She's been his right-hand man.
The Democratic convention concludes on Thursday. Former President Barack Obama is expected to speak tonight, and former President Bill Clinton is slated to speak Wednesday night before vice presidential nominee Tim Walz takes the podium. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Police arrested 13 pro-Palestine protesters yesterday as the Democratic National Convention kicked off in Chicago.
More demonstrations are planned through the week, including one tonight outside the Israeli consulate. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest on the protests.
Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling said Monday's crowd was around 3,500 strong. A number of protesters confronted police, pepper spraying officers and throwing water bottles at them. At least 10 were arrested after attempting to breach a security fence. NTD also captured footage of a small group of pro-Palestine protesters gathered at Chicago's McCormick Place Convention Center.
Our job here is to make sure that we keep the DNC safe, keep our city safe, and keep our people safe. We have no idea what they would have done if they gotten on to the other side. But as I said before, we're not going to tolerate anyone who is going to vandalize things in our city. We're not going to tolerate anyone who are going to commit acts of violence.
The park where most of the arrests were made is located a block from the convention center. Charges range from criminal trespass to resisting and obstructing an arrest to aggravated battery of police officers. This morning, an extra line of fencing was installed at the park and tall metal barriers were reinforced. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Tonight, former President Obama will endorse Vice President Kamala Harris in day 2 of the Democratic convention. His high-profile speech will aim to boost her new and untested presidential bid. On the Republican side, former President Trump will address crime and safety issues in Michigan. It's Trump's sixth visit to key battleground state this year. The former president's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, discussed crime at a campaign event in Wisconsin.
With the DNC now underway, we'll take you there with on-the-ground interviews, in-house analysis, and more. Be sure to tune in for our live special coverage of The Nation Decides 2024. Join our own Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on NTD. We'll be covering the DNC every evening until it wraps up this Thursday, so don't miss out. Still to come, we talk with one Democratic strategist about what's to come at this year's DNC.
We have that and more after this short break.
The one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. The 2024 NTD International Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Competition will be held August 30th to September 2nd at the Village School in New Jersey. Semifinals and finals tickets are on sale. To buy tickets, please call 1-888-477-9228.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic, so I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
Today, so for 1.5 hours.
Welcome back. Day 2 of the Democratic National Convention kicks off today. It's a pivotal moment for the Democratic Party, who watched their presumptive nominee, Joe Biden, drop out of the race just a month ago. For a look at the DNC and the presidential race, we have with us Democratic strategist Theron Bond. Theron, good to see you.
Thank you.
Starting us off, President Joe Biden, or he was the one who performed the ending speech for last night's event. Now, he was actually quite energetic. It was quite a long speech. He was introduced by his daughter beforehand. So just tell us, what did you feel about that? What did you take away from it?
I think the start of his speech was very bittersweet. You could see the emotion in his eyes. You could feel the energy through the screen. And honestly, I think that's one of the best speeches he's ever given, like ever in his 50+ years of service. It was really good. It was certainly a better performance than he had during the debate. It certainly put him in a better light, and I think it's going to make a lot of people feel better about the situation that we're in now. What I think also happened was there were a few moments where it's like, ooh, I don't know if I would say that, but I don't think it's going to hurt him much. I mean, he's nearing the end of his term, and people are ramping up for the Harris-Walz administration. I think he could have done a better job of maybe mitigating that and saying, you know, this is what I've done, this is what she's going to do, and this is how we transition between the two.
You're talking about the transition between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. After he decided to drop out of the race, he gave a relatively brief address to the nation from the Oval Office. And, you know, it left a lot of questions on the table. He gave a much longer speech last night, obviously very emotional. Do you feel like he addressed that transition more thoroughly? How do you feel about that?
I don't. I think he made it about 90% about him. I think it was about his current administration. I think it was about his tenure, his legacy, policy implementation that he's had, things he may like to see in these last few months of his administration. That's what he spoke about. I think what the American people really wanted to see, though, is a bit about that, but more about what he thinks about Vice President Kamala Harris and what a Harris-Walz presidency and administration would look like. I think that's the piece that was missing from last night, but hopefully as we journey through the week, we'll see more people fill in those gaps.
Yeah, and you mentioned he didn't speak as much about Vice President Kamala Harris, so let's do that right now. This is a big event for Kamala Harris. She's expected to officially accept the nomination by the end of the DNC. What do you see her needing to do to make the most of this event for her campaign?
The first and most important thing that she has to do is release her complete platform. She's slowly releasing things about her economic plan, but we haven't really seen enough or know how far that will go. And honestly, it seems just to be a rebuttal of what former President Donald Trump is actively talking about and has been for quite some time. So honestly, she's got some catching up to do. Unfortunately, she made a conscious decision to kind of ride in President Joe Biden's shadows for most of her tenure as vice president. So we need to really know who she is, what she stands for, and how she intends to govern for the American people. And there are about 700,000 and counting uncommitted voters who are saying, hey, we're here, you hushed us once, we won't be silent. Are you gonna speak to our issues, or are we gonna take our votes somewhere else? And that is a real thing that Democrats should be concerned about.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that, these uncommitted voters. What does Harris have to do to overcome that challenge?
The short answer is the uncommitted movement wants a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire at that. And then they also want the United States to stop funding weapons of war to Israel. It seems like a tall order, but those are things that she hasn't exactly given a concrete answer for. She's kind of tap danced around it a little bit. And I think it's because she knows, hey, I can't push too far with this voting bloc, but I have to push a little bit. I think her kind of silencing them at the rally was a bad move. You never want somebody to be unheard. Several of them are delegates and are at the convention, and that's outside of who's protesting in the streets. I think she's gonna have to actively engage them and have the tough conversations to see if she can win them over in these last few months leading up to the November election.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up these protesters because we did see quite a large number of protesters yesterday as well, right outside the convention venue. I heard a few dozen even broke through a barrier, and there were arrests made as well. So clearly there's this divide within the party, or perhaps within Americans in general as well. So what do you think that Kamala Harris should be doing and showing to promote more of a sense of unity among her party?
I think what we saw with a lot of the nostalgia last night during the convention, that was showing a sign of unity because we saw multiple generations represented. But we need to see it from her. We're seeing it from her surrogates. We're seeing from former presidents. We're seeing from former people that have served in administrations, but we're not seeing it from her. And she's at the top of the ticket. And that's really what the American people are asking for, is we want to hear directly from the person who is the final decision maker when it comes to governance at the federal level. And that's what we have to see. If not, it could turn into even more voter apathy. which doesn't necessarily mean they'll go vote for former President Donald Trump, but it very well may mean that they sit at home and sit this one out, and we cannot have that.
You know, we're talking about what Vice President Kamala Harris stands for in this race. She hasn't had much unscripted airtime as of late or to date since Joe Biden stepped down. Does that help her or hurt her?
You know, there's a saying that, no press is bad press, and anything could potentially turn into good press. I think she owes it to the American people to talk to them. Has she been talking to tens of thousands of voters? Yes. But we know that the media assists with amplifying a message, whether we like what she's saying or whether we disagree with it. But it's certainly a way to reach past just tens of thousands into millions of homes with millions of voters, many of those homes which are multi-generational. She's gonna have to have the media as a part of her strategy. If she continues to ignore the media or selectively cherry pick, they're not going to be happy with her. And then if she is elected, we'll see how that plays out with the White House press corps. And we've seen how that has worked for or against President Joe Biden and also former President Donald Trump in the past.
Right, staying on this conversation of policy and strategy, we did see Vice President Kamala Harris announce some of her economic policies a couple days ago, which actually kind of received a lukewarm reception from both sides of the aisle. So going forward in the next few days of the DNC, especially with her speech on the last day, what do you see her having to say or do in terms of economic policy to win over more voters?
You know, part of her policy introduced first-time homeowner tax credits, which we've seen before. And I think it was to the tune of about $25,000. But honestly, if we look at the cost of inflation, that $25,000 doesn't go very far. And honestly, with the way people travel more now, people's jobs aren't as secure as they were some time ago. You know, people aren't all buying homes, whether they're a first-time home buyer or not, whether they're moving across town. They're making very careful decisions about that. And some people are choosing to do families later. They're choosing to have families later, have children later. And so how much will this benefit the person who may not want to buy a home or may not want to have kids or may not want to multiply their family? I personally am a person I live in an apartment because there's a lot of maintenance that comes with that home. So yes, I get a tax credit for buying the home, but what else? How do I maintain it? What if a pipe busts loose? Then what do I do? That's an extra cost. So I think there are things that she has to include that mitigate some of those things, fill in gaps, and become more inclusive of people in her party and the American people as a whole.
Yeah, you know, I spoke to a home buying expert, real estate expert the other day, and he was saying, you know, now is the time not to buy, but to rent, because the costs overall of buying versus renting on a monthly basis, it just doesn't make sense to be buying at this time. That's what he was saying. All right, Democratic strategist Theron Bond, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Next, what do New York City residents think about being watched by even more cameras? And how the cameras are on the move and used to enforce laws. We'll have that more on that after the break.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I am very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel actually an effect, and I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times, and so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then the second time I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it, and over a few times. And wow, there was a big difference, because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours, and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
For today's Business Matters, we have Don Ma here with us. Don, how are you doing? What's happening in the business world?
I'm doing good. Good to see you guys, as always. Fiona, Chris. Yeah, a lot happening. Let me just get started on that right away. So, plot twist for Paramount, it looks like. A new suitor has submitted a buyout offer after it accepted a deal with Skydance Media. So, media executive Edgar Bronfman Jr. is willing to pay more than $4 billion. And sources are saying that this would be for National Amusements. That's the company through which Sherry Redstone's family controls the media giant, and a minority stake in Paramount Global. And as well, a proposed buyout of 7-Eleven by Circle K's operator is expected to face antitrust scrutiny, according to a retail analyst. Now, the parent company of Circle K confirmed that it has made a friendly, non-binding proposal to Japan's 7 and I Holdings. Though the price was not disclosed, 7-Eleven and Circle K are the 2 largest convenience store chains in the U.S., and that is why the analyst expects that the Federal Trade Commission to have a strong point of view on the potential merger. And as well, the world's largest contract maker, TSMC, launched a new major computer chip plant in Germany today, and it's expected to be a key supplier to the European industry and car makers. The EU Commission approved $5.5 billion worth of state aid from Germany. The large aid award for the project will cost $11 billion in total, and it is the biggest approved so far under the EU Chips Act, and the first in Germany. Now, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz attended the groundbreaking ceremony today, and this is the first project in Europe under TSMC. It is expected to reduce European dependence on other countries for computer chips. Meanwhile, staying in the EU, it is cutting its planned tariffs on imports of Tesla's cars built in China today. It's down to 9% from previously nearly 21%. So in June, the European Commission said that it would increase tariffs on Chinese EV imports because they benefit unfairly from state subsidies and pose a threat to EV makers in Europe. So this has provoked threats of retaliation from Beijing. And the EU said it lowered the duty rate for Tesla after the company requested a recalculation of its rate based on the specific subsidies it receives in China. Now, a few other companies, for example, BYD, also had their rates lowered. The Commission said that companies that don't cooperate with the EU's anti-subsidy investigation will face final duties of more than 36%. All right, the home improvement sector. seems to be in need of some renovations. Lowe's stock is down about 1% after reporting a decline in quarterly sales and a cut in its full-year outlook. So in an interview, CEO Marvin Ellison said that consumers are waiting for the Fed to cut interest rates. He noted that the vast majority of Lowe's customers are homeowners and many are hesitant to get a new mortgage or take out a loan for major home projects. Even when a cut happens, Ellison says that it's difficult to predict when home improvement activity will gain momentum again. Rival Home Depot also expecting a weaker second half of the year. And get this, for the first time, a bar of gold is worth $1 million. So prices for the precious metal hit a record high on Friday, soaring to more than $2,500 per troy ounce. So the average gold bar weighs about 400 troy ounces. Now, if you do the math, then that makes it worth over $1 million. And most gold bars are usually traded internationally by central banks and bullion traders. Bullion dealers, they see the precious metal as a long-term reliable store of value during economic turmoil. So that's because when interest rates fall, gold prices tend to rise as bullion becomes more appealing than bonds. Now let's talk about this merger between Alaska and Hawaiian Airlines. It has been cleared for takeoff by the Justice Department, but it's stuck on the runway until it gets approval from the Transportation Department. In December, the two carriers announced a nearly $2 billion merger agreement. In a statement, Alaska Airlines said the Justice Department's regulatory antitrust investigation period ended today. No lawsuit was launched to block the transaction. Now, if the merger is approved, the airlines say that they plan to preserve both brand names but operate under a single platform. It's not clear how long the Transportation Department's approval process will take, though. And another step back for Boeing. Its troubled 777X aircraft has encountered yet another problem. Boeing paused tests after discovering structural problems with the plane. The company says that a component between the engine and the plane's wings did not perform as it was designed to do. Engineers are now working to replace the part and will resume testing, quote, when ready. Boeing billed the 777X as the world's largest and most efficient twin-engine jet. It was supposed to have entered service in 2020, but has been plagued by delays and cost issues. This structural problem could push back the revised launch date of 2025. Meanwhile, the Federal Aviation Administration will require all Boeing 787 Dreamliners to be inspected. And this is following an incident in March, and that's when a plane went into a sudden dive and 50 passengers were injured. The FAA said the dive was caused by the autopilot disengaging when the captain's seat moved on its own. The agency said it's received several other complaints about the same issue, and the FAA is now directing 158 planes in the U.S. and over 700 planes worldwide to be inspected, and inspectors have been asked to look at the captain's and first officers' seats. The inspections must be completed in 30 days, and airlines must take action to fix any issues found. Now, as tech giants ramp up their AI and cloud computing efforts, seems like demand for data center power is soaring. According to a new study, it shows that data center construction in top U.S. and Canadian markets has jumped 70% in the past year. Now, let's go to NTD's Christina Corona, who tells us more on this.
Data centers, often described as large computer warehouses, are measured by their power usage rather than their physical size. According to a CBRE Group research study released this week, in the first half of 2024, over 500 megawatts of new data center capacity were introduced in the top 8 markets across the US and Canada. That's roughly equivalent to the total capacity in Silicon Valley. This represents a 10% increase in new data center supply compared to the previous 6 months, and is a 23% jump from a year ago. The 8 key North American markets for data centers are North Virginia, Dallas and Fort Worth, Silicon Valley, Chicago, Phoenix, the New York tri-state area, Atlanta, and Hillsboro in Oregon. The global real estate services and investment firm reported that as new data center inventory surged, vacancy rates fell to 2.8%, resulting in higher rental rates, with newer facilities often commanding a premium over older ones. CBRE's data Data Center Trend Report stated the demand for high-powered computing has exacerbated the pricing disparity between legacy facilities and new data centers, partially because older data centers don't have the infrastructure to handle the power demands of today's users. The report suggests that rising demand for new facilities will likely make smaller markets, such as Idaho, Arkansas, and Kansas, more attractive. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Meanwhile, BMW is recalling more than 720,000 vehicles in the U.S. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is concerned that an exposed electrical connector could get wet and cause a short circuit. So the recall includes some crossovers, including the X1 and X5, along with some 5 Series sedans and other models. Dealers will inspect and replace the water pump and plug a connector as necessary. The NHTSA said retailers will also install a protective shield for free. The auto regulator added that BMW was aware of the problem of 18 customer complaints and concerns, but it hasn't received any reports of accidents or injuries in the U.S. Now, New York City Transit Authority is tired of double parkers and bus lane blockers. The city is now putting cameras on buses to catch lawbreakers. Of course, not everyone is happy. Let's now go to NTD Sean Marshall for more details on that.
If you're in New York City, you're now more likely to get a ticket if you double park or block bus lanes. Public buses are now equipped with cameras to catch lawbreakers. The goal is to allow buses to travel more freely and reduce collisions.
You can see right here, bus stops blocked. People cannot get to the bus.
We asked some locals what they think about using ACE, or automated camera enforcement, and if it's an invasion of privacy.
That it's not like, it's kind of an invasion of privacy, like recording with your camera. But if it is about like the better of like everyone getting to where they need to go on time, because we know that New York is very busy.
Authorities say when enforcement cameras are activated, traffic moves through bus lanes 5% faster on average.
When in doubt, you best be sure you're not blocking a bus route.
There's also a 20% reduction in collisions and a 5% to 10% estimated reduction in emissions. But not everybody's happy about the possibility of more fines.
I don't think that's right. I don't think they should be doing that. I think they should be more considerable to people and understand what they're going through. And it's a lot because it takes a lot of money from people and the taxes are going up and everybody just working.
The government says the penalties work. Only 1 in 10 drivers commit another bus lane violation after being fined.
Rules are rules. And if they say don't park at the bus stop, I believe they should get a ticket.
Time is up for people who are blocking buses. Camera enforcement is one of the most efficient tools at our disposal to improve our bus riders' experiences.
Anywhere with active ACE camera enforcement will now have signs indicating that those routes are camera enforced. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Meanwhile, national public data over the weekend confirmed a massive breach that reportedly affected almost all Americans. And the company said that compromised data may include names, email address, phone numbers, mailing addresses, and even social security numbers. So amid growing cyber threats, let's take a look at what you can do to protect yourself and how to check if your information is exposed.
National Public Data, a background check company, made headlines this month in a security breach. According to a lawsuit against the company, 2.9 billion records of personally identifiable information were exposed. This makes it the largest breach since Yahoo's incident in 2013. The exposed data includes names, addresses, and social security numbers. Ryan Montgomery, a leading cybersecurity expert, explains why a social security number is the most crucial piece of data.
The data, a lot of it's publicly accessible with background check websites. So if you Google, let's say, John Doe in Florida, and you find a home address, an email, a relative, a phone number, that data for the most part is already available. What is not available is that social security number.
In response to the breach, Montgomery and his team built a tool allowing people to check if their info has been compromised.
And if you haven't checked, ntd.pentester.com is where you can check if you, your family, loved ones are in there. And right underneath of the results, you're going to see our instructions to freeze your credit.
The U.S. government says a credit freeze can prevent thieves from opening new accounts in your name by freezing access to your credit report. And don't worry, it's also easy to unfreeze whenever you need to.
When you're going to buy a car, you're going to do something like that. You unfreeze your credit momentarily. Once you get what you want, you go ahead and freeze it again. It's as simple as clicking one button, and it doesn't cost you $1.
In addition, you can also review your statements from the Social Security Administration if you believe someone else is using your SSN. It could be a good idea to contact the IRS as well to avoid tax abuses. If someone is already abusing your credit, be sure to report to local police as well as identitytheft.gov. But even if you don't find your information in Montgomery's testing system, he still advises a conservative approach.
And I would just recommend, like I said in the beginning, freeze your credit whether you're in this database or not, and stay safe.
Along with Montgomery's company, there are other services, both free and paid, available to help remove your personal information online, including Delete Me and Privacy Bee, to name a few. BJ Kang and Jimmy Ma, NTD News, California.
And that is all the stories we have on today's Business Matters. Back to you guys, Chris and Fiona.
Don, these cameras on buses used to give parking tickets to people blocking bus lanes is pretty clever.
Yeah, I mean, I think with this strategy, personally, I feel that there will be a reduction in the number of people who is parking at bus stops. I mean, I can see how frustrating it is if I put myself in the shoes of a bus driver who is trying to, park at the stop for passengers trying to get on. I mean, yeah, I can see that he's maybe a little bit annoyed by that.
Yeah, and I think another big question that would come up with this is the cost. I mean, it's not cheap, and there are a lot of buses in New York City. Yeah, so I guess we just have to look out and see how they're going to pay for it. Maybe the congestion tolling, if it ends up getting passed in Manhattan, maybe that will help pay for it, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I can imagine that it might cost them a little bit for this.
Don Ma, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, candidate Trump is in the battleground state of Michigan to talk about crime and safety. We have that and more after this short break.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shenyun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
You'll save big at Mathis Home and get store-wide 12-month no-interest financing during the Monumental Savings Event. Get huge markdowns on hundreds of sofas starting at just $3.99. Check out our incredible selection of patio and outdoor furniture and save big. Plus, we're the only place with top-name recliners starting at just $195. Shop online and find over 180,000 items perfect for every room in your house. Come save at the Monumental Savings Event at Mathis Home.
Do you ever wake up and realize your life has no purpose?
Do I have a death wish? Morgan asked. Maybe I did. I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
The next day, something strange happened. Someone came up to me and gave me this flyer about Jesus.
You can be in heaven, or you can be in hell. The choice is yours.
We gonna walk straight out of here. Pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught, tried to escape my prison. Nobody escapes my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here, and he forgave me.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Jesus is for free, and salvation is a gift. Do you believe in Jesus?
Welcome back. Former President Donald Trump is campaigning in Howell, Michigan today as the DNC is underway. Let's watch that.
Thousands. We took MS-13 ICE, took MS-13 out of our country by the thousands and thousands, and they received them, and that's the way. It's just another little story, but it's a story that's very important because I can't see a guy like Biden making that call. Can you? Do you think Biden thinks at night, gee, how are we going to get MS-13 out? He doesn't know he's alive. He didn't know he's alive. And this one is just a Marxist. I mean, she's a Marxist communist person, and we're not ready for a communist president, okay? We're not ready for it. We're going to destroy our country. Under my leadership, no community will be surrendered to violent criminals. No citizen will be abandoned to migrant crime. We have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's probably more vicious than the crime that we already have, which is pretty vicious. These people are vicious, and please don't let anyone convince you that our criminals and we have more crime. They are sending massive number of criminals. And you've heard me say this before, Venezuela crime is down 72%. 72. Because they've taken their criminals out of Caracas. They've taken their criminals out of all of their cities, all of their areas, all of the country, and they're sending them to us. And I'm amazed that they're not doing it quicker, to be honest with you. It's happening fast. They're also emptying out the jails. And this is true all over the world. They're emptying out their prisons, and they're taking their criminals from off the streets. They're taking their drug dealers, and their crime rates are down at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And everyone says, oh, so-and-so's doing a great job running such and such a country. No, they're not. They're just very intelligent. I would do it if I were them. I would do it much faster. I can't believe they still have some left. But their jails are getting to be very empty. And what they're doing is they're literally dropping them in. They're busing them in, and they're bringing them in. And they're saying, don't ever come back. If you come back, you get the death penalty. Or if you come back, you get killed. Don't ever come back. And you see the crime statistics are unbelievable. If you look at the jails are... They've never been so low in terms of world. I'm talking all over the world, because they're sending their criminals to the United States of America, and they're saying, don't ever come back, and their jails are being emptied, and their criminals are being taken off the streets, and their crime rates are plummeting. But that's what we want for our country. So we're sending those people back, and these are the people that can do it. So we're going to have a reformed Department of Justice. We'll once again be a friend and partner to our great local police and police officers general. And we'll be working with victims of crime very closely, but we'll not be working with the criminals that commit the crime. We're going to change it around. Right now, the criminal has a lot more respect within our Department of Justice than the victims. We're going to be working with the victims. We're going to get the gangsters, the drug dealers, the dangerous offenders behind bars, and we're going to get them ideally out of our country, ideally, except in extreme cases. We have some extreme cases where they've murdered many people, and in that case, we want to make sure they're away. But the amount of crime that we have is unbelievable, and the lack of crime that these other places, it just makes so much sense, doesn't it? That's all common sense, too. They're taking their criminals and they're bringing them to the United States, and they look so great. And cities like Caracas, which was a very dangerous place to be, these are cities that have opened up. They have new life, but our country is suffering. And you know, they just got here over the last 2 years, mostly over the last couple of years during this administration, during our great border czar who wants to be our president. They'll be laughing. Watch, President Xi will be laughing. Putin will be laughing. They'll all be laughing. By the way, the war with Russia would have never started with Ukraine, would have never started if I was president. October 7th would have never happened. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. This is a very dangerous time that we're in. It's dangerous in terms of crime and all, but it's very dangerous in terms of a possible World War III. We're very close to World War III, and people don't realize it. We're closer than we've ever been, I think, ever since World War II, but this would be the war of wars because of weaponry. This isn't, as I say, two army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. The level of power, the level of weaponry that there is in the world today is so bad, is so dangerous, is so bad. And you need the right person to be president. You know, we had no war when I was president, except that I totally defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate. Everyone said it would take 5 years. It took me like about 4 weeks. Because we have a great military. We have great generals, not the ones you see on television, not the ones that did the Afghanistan botchery, but we have great military people. I know them. And they're never going woke. You know, you keep hearing our military is going woke. The top people would like to see it, but it's never going to. These are not people, just like these people will never be. Do you promise you'll never be woke? I don't see a lot of wokeness. There's not a lot of wokeness. I don't think so. But we're going to stand up for law-abiding citizens of America. We're going to be really, I think, an inspiration to the world. But we have to start by remedying a situation that was caused by somebody that right now is running for president of the United States. She would be a disaster as president. I love our country. I didn't need this. I didn't have to do this. I didn't need to get indicted by any time I fly over a state.
You're watching former President Donald Trump speaking there in Howell, Michigan on crime and safety. He's flanked by local sheriffs. This comes at a time when police departments nationwide are dealing with problems recruiting personnel.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris, because there's sort of this idea that, you know, the authorities right now, they're not really doing much in terms of stopping crime. So people are becoming less encouraged to go and report crime. You know, a lot of talk there about border issues with South America, and in a bigger picture, Russia and Israel, Iran as well. So a lot going on there.
Sure.
Well, thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers. See you tomorrow.